Hi guys, Dr. Chalam. So I hope you enjoyed the last video, and I know I briefly mentioned about the gut. I'm going to expand a little bit about the gut. Why is it so important? When you look at functional medicine, they call the gut the second brain, and they say all disease begins in the gut. It may not be completely true, but it is a very big player in our health. So why is it important? Now, if you look at it, the gut's job is to connect the outside world to the internal world. And the outside world, let's say it's the food. The food gets broken down in the gut, full digestive process, and then gets into the bloodstream in the form of nutrients. And what is the most important? Why is it very important to understand how this affects our health? For that, I'm going to help you understand this by actually drawing out the players in the gut. Hopefully you can get to see it. All right, so I'm going to draw the gut as just as a pipe. Of course, food has to be chewed in the mouth. It's a whole process of digestion, goes through the esophagus, gets into the stomach. The acid breaks it down, but the next part that it goes to is the small intestine. The small intestine has three major players. I'm going to talk about the most important one that is becoming more and more, there's a lot more research, that is your gut bacteria. What does the gut bacteria do? We have trillions of gut bacteria, more than cells in our body. The gut bacteria live in a symbiotic relationship with us. They not only extract the nutrients and vitamins for us, they also create new vitamins. So when somebody who is a meat eater comes to me with vitamin B12 deficiency, it's not because they don't have enough B12 in their food, it's because the gut bacteria is not balanced enough to create their vitamins. I hope you can take that as a point to remember the gut bacteria is responsible a lot for the vitamins that you have. The other part where, remember I said the gut is your second brain, it has its own brain. It's called the enteric nervous system. So the enteric nervous system is independent of the brain. The brain is connected to the gut, but the enteric nervous system, it's the gut's own brain. And that connects with the bacteria. It is affected by the bacteria and therefore even is an active participant in the inflammatory process. The third player is the immune system. But the immune system becomes extremely important because when that breaks down, you have a higher incidence of autoimmune disorders, particularly like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, very commonly connected to the gut bacteria. If there's a disruption in any of these three, you have gut symptoms. So there's one more connection. Remember I said the brain is connected through two systems. One is the parasympathetic and the other is the sympathetic nervous system. These are under some voluntary control. So if you are wanting to have a bowel movement but there's no toilet nearby, automatically the sphincter closes. That's the sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system, the best way to understand its function is a person sitting on the toilet reading a newspaper. That's the whole parasympathetic nervous system that's working. Now this we're not going to talk much about except the fact brain health is connected to the gut and gut health is connected to the brain. In other words, if you have a lot of stress, it can disrupt the bacteria and cause symptoms. Similarly, if you have anxiety, depression, that can also disrupt your bacteria. On the other hand, if you have the wrong kind of bacteria, it can cause anxiety and depression. So when I see anxiety, depression, I'm looking at nutrients, I'm looking at their genetic testing, I'm looking at their gut health. We'll talk about it in another video. But for now, I'm going to talk about this. So the gut bacteria, you think of them as a population in a city. If you have too many criminals more than lawmakers, then you have a lot more inflammation. So you want to get a balance. And if this is disrupted, your nervous system and the gut is disrupted and your immune system is disrupted. Every time you eat, there's inflammation in the gut. But the good bacteria protects the gut walls and prevents disease from happening. However, if you eat every 2 hours, what are you causing? Repeated inflammation. And if you're not eating the right food, the inflammation is a little longer lasting and really disrupts the immune system and the nervous system. So let's look at what are the symptoms that can you may experience, because a lot of people call me and say, I just have a few gut issues. It's not a big deal, but here are the symptoms you should look for. You're looking for reflux symptoms. You're looking for a bloating sensation. You're looking for what has been described as an irritable bowel syndrome. You are looking for constipation or diarrhea, so kind of movement issues. All of these are symptoms that you have to take seriously and get to the root cause and resolve them. A lot of times we tolerate them because there are over-the-counter medications to give us relief, and a lot of times we don't think they are significant enough to take seriously. So I want you to understand symptoms are never benign. If you don't address this, it progresses to affecting the whole system. What are the reasons you have these symptoms? Let's look at the causes. Causes can be medications. Medications can be any medications, blood pressure medicines, cholesterol medicines, everything disrupts the system. Can be most commonly antibiotics. And then you have chemicals, chemical exposure, the population that's exposed to chemicals. We're all exposed to chemicals. We have 80,000 chemicals we're exposed to. However, concentrated chemicals are people who do cleaning for a job. People who are firefighters, people who have painters, hairdressers, makeup artists, they are exposed to a lot of chemicals. So chemicals can also disrupt and cause these symptoms. So what is the solution we have to look for? Literally, we got to address not only the diet, we got to change this bacteria, the population, change the bacteria in the gut. We may have the overgrowth of the bad bacteria and less of the good bacteria. How do you do that? You would address diet. You would address what are the medicines you are taking, even supplements. You'd look at food toxicity. You'd look at infections and so on. So you can see why simple symptoms like this require a very broad and a complex approach. And that's why it's not as simple as, oh, I just have a little heartburn. You got to figure out why. Do you have an infection that's causing heartburn, and so on. So there's a lot more questions that we have to ask. I hope this helps. I know it's a lot of information. I'm Dr. Shalom, founder of Holistic and Integrative Center of Novi, the best place to find your best doctor, and that is you.